Fairbanks Focus is a locally produced public affairs program created in part by University of Alaska Fairbanks, KTVF, and Fairbanks Economic Development Corporation.
Welcome to Fairbanks Focus Alaska View. I'm your host, Annie Bartholomew, here with Assistant Professor Brian Cook. Thanks for coming on the show today, Brian.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Tell me about your new performance.
So the show we're working on at the U right now is Nickel and Dimed. It was adapted from a book by Barbara Ehrenreich by a playwright named Joan Holden, and it is basically a pretty good adaptation of Barbara Ehrenreich's book project, which was she went to 3 different low-wage jobs, working at about minimum wage to see if she could live for a month just making the minimum wage, and have an apartment and, be able to pay her bills and, eat and drive a car, and see how she could do. So,
what were those jobs?
The first one, she worked at a diner in Florida. The second one, she was a housemaid, like for a cleaning service in Maine. And the third one, she worked at Walmart in Minnesota. So she went all over the country to different places to, see what it was like in different locations, and see if, to try to test various places so she wasn't just like always focused on the South or the Northeast or wherever.
So why this play? Why now?
Well, my coming into the university for the first time now has been, we had a little trial and error. We had a couple of other options. And when we chose this play, part of the reason I wanted to do it was that even though the play was basically created around the welfare reform issues of the late 1990s, and that's why she decided to see if minimum wage was a viable option. After the 2008, financial crisis, we've definitely had a similar sort of, and there's been a lot of news stories, both online and television, about the disparity between what people who make a lot of money make and the people who are at the lowest end of the wage scale. And we've talked, and since we selected the show and we've cast it and been working on it in rehearsals, the issues come up time and time again. And all of our students who are working on the show, talk about their own experiences working minimum wage jobs or coming from a family who's working at the minimum wage. So it's a very potent story for kind of all time, even though it may have been set 15 years ago. We very much feel the same kind of effects now. And people who work minimum wage jobs still have the same issues. And that's really what the play is talking about.
Can you tell me a little bit about your leading lady?
Her name is Rachel Blackwell, and she is a graduate of the theater department, but since has pursued other degrees and is now pursuing a degree in education. And so she is, she's an actress who's done a lot of work around Fairbanks, and she is honestly a bit younger than the role should be played, but she's very capable and able to do it. And her own life experiences really do play a role in how she interprets the character, which I think has been a very interesting process to watch her do. She's on stage for almost every minute of the show, so she has quite the sort of burden on her to support the whole production. She interacts with every character, and so she's got a big role, but she's doing a very good job with it.
Can you tell me more about her character? What the character's background is?
Yeah, so the character is definitely based on the writer of the original book, Barbara Ehrenreich. She, in the play, is a sort of, very liberal author who has a lot of life experience as a journalist and she has a PhD in biology, so she's also a scientist. And she takes on this project kind of at the whim of one of her editors, And she says, okay, well, I'll try it. She says she has a working class background. Her father worked in the mines, and her former husband, she talks about in the play, was he was a union laborer, and so she feels like she knows these people, and so she enters the project, and she, I think, goes into it with a kind of naive attitude of, oh, this is not going to be a problem for me, it's going to be simple, like I know how to do this. And she really discovers over time that A, it's a lot harder than she thought, and B, some of the compromises that people have to make are so unexpected for her that she really recognizes that she really had no idea what she was getting into at the first. And the play really does mirror the book in that way. The book really does the same kind of thing. It talks so much about, she talks about her experience and she uses a lot of facts and details. But at the same time, she also really talks about the people she met and the life that they lead and how they try to make it work on, making $7 an hour, having to work more than one job, sometimes 3, whether or not they have kids, and how long in their life they've been doing this, and really about how hard it is to break out of that system, right? And so there's a lot of, when the play was adapted, it was sort of workshopped at a number of theaters. And they did a lot of rewrites that are based in questions that audience members had asked them after some of the original productions. And so they put some of those questions right into the script. They gave some of the characters some of those statements and comments. And one of the most consistent ones is that, people who work at the minimum wage are lazy because if they could do any better, or if they wanted to do better, they could do better. And I think what she really discovers in the play is that she kind of felt that too when going into these jobs. And she really recognized that, when you're working 80 hours a week at 2 jobs and barely making enough money to live, when do you have time to pursue some other opportunity that you don't understand, right? Some of the people who work at these jobs get promoted, and that may be their way out of the minimum wage job, but, some of them just, they have, 2 kids and one of the kids gets sick for a week and they lose their job, So there's a lot of things that go into it that she discovers that she really wouldn't have known about if she hadn't gone and watched it for herself.
How many people are in your cast?
There are 8 in the cast.
8? Only 8?
Yeah, only 8. But there, other than Rachel, who plays Barbara through the entire play, all of the other actors, all 7 of them, play probably about 35, 40 different characters. So, the costume designer has done a wonderful job, trying to make them all look as different as possible, and having to do, some really fast costume changes backstage to enable them to play that many characters. But yeah, it'll be sort of a fast-paced adventure for everyone who comes.
So when does it open?
It opens, let's cheat and look at the list. It opens October 25th, Friday. It runs for the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday that weekend. And then the next weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday again. The Sunday performances are at 2, and the Friday and Saturday performances are at 7:30.
And where is it located?
It'll be in the Lee Salisbury Theater on the university campus in the Fine Arts Building.
What's it like doing a performance there?
It is a very big theater, maybe bigger than, almost bigger than anyone I've ever been in before. It's a very large stage. And we wanted to create an intimacy with this. And people who've been to shows there before won't be surprised, but we have brought the audience on stage. And so it's a smaller, more intimate setting with the actors and the audience in real close proximity to each other. And so it's been a little bit of getting used to, but everyone who I've worked with on this show has done a tremendous job in a very short time of doing what is a very complicated play. I mean, there's like over 100 different props that people bring on and off stage, and the set has to change almost every scene. And so, there's been a lot of like, okay, how do we make this work? But everyone has really sort of said, all right, let's make it work. And they, strap on and jump in. So it's been great.
What do you hope the audience gets from this performance?
I think we've tried to, the play as it was originally written definitely comes down very firmly on one side of the minimum wage question. We have done some things to kind of mitigate that a little bit, mostly because I think that some of the arguments made about the minimum wage aren't necessarily true, nor are they based in reality. But at the same time, there are also real questions about how ethical it is to have somebody, to pay somebody $7 an hour and expect that the only way they're going to be able to live on that, even if they're working 40 hours a week, is to go to the food bank to get their food, or to live in a shelter until they can save enough money to get a deposit on an apartment. There are definitely ethical questions that are raised by this play, and so I hope the audience will come in with an open mind and listen to the play, think about some of the issues that the play raises and the questions of, one of the most potent moments of this show features a maid who works in a hotel, and she talks about how, the people that she cleans up after pay no attention to her unless she messes up her job. And at the same time, she's doing some of the worst things you could possibly imagine, cleaning up dirty toilets that somebody's left behind, and cleaning beds and emptying out disgusting trash cans, and and she's doing all that for $6 an hour. And the question is, how as a human being do you get up and go to that job every day? So I'm hoping that some people will really think about the plight of the worker in a way, and really think about what they're willing to sacrifice in order to have everybody kind of have a more stable life and not always have to live at paycheck to paycheck.
Do you know what minimum wage in Alaska is?
I actually don't. I know that it's higher than it is elsewhere, than the federal minimum wage. But is it $8 an hour? I can't remember. We did look it up, and we talked about it in our rehearsal, but the number doesn't hit my head right now.
Well, tell me again how people can see the play.
People can go to the University Theater website, Theater UAF. It would be uaf.edu/theater, and they can find the link for tickets, or they can call the box office, 474-6590. Make a reservation to come and see the show. And the show runs 2 weekends, so 6 different performances. On the second Sunday, which is October 27th, right after the show, we're going to do a talk-back session. We have a couple of faculty members from other departments. We have someone from the Student Support Services office at UAF and someone from one of the local food banks. And they're going to talk about some of the issues of the show that, from a Fairbanks perspective. How does this show sort of how are the issues of this play manifest themselves in Fairbanks? And what other resources are out there for people.
And when's that happening again?
It's October 27th on Sunday, right after the show. The show starts at 2, so the talkback should start right around 4.
And what's the cost of the performance?
The performance is, I'm going to cheat again, for adults $14, seniors and military $11, and students $7.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Up next is Annette Pearson, who will be interviewing Carrie Seward about Out There Honky Tonkin', a new performance.
Thanks for staying with us here at Fairbanks Focus Alaska View. I'm Annette Pearson, and today I am joined by 2 very special guests, Carrie Seward and Amanda Bent, and we'll be talking about their brand new musical here in Fairbanks called Out There Honky Tonkin'. So thanks for joining us this morning, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, nice to be here.
Awesome. So tell our audience out there a little bit about Honky Tonkin', Out There Honky Tonkin'.
Okay, it's an original Alaskan musical that Amanda and I wrote.
And Riesa Rose Harris, who is an Alaskan singer-songwriter, wrote all the music. So we wrote the story of the play pulled from the songs that she had written, because we both were really in love with her songwriting style, and it's original Alaskan honky-tonk, but in the style of true honky-tonk, true old country. And that's sort of our jams. So so we wrote a honky-tonk musical.
Yeah, her influences are Loretta Lynn, George Jones, and Merle Haggard. You can hear all of that in the songs.
Music, yeah. Well, and of course, I'm familiar with Riesa and yourself all in the local artist music scene here in Fairbanks. And I was really excited when I saw that you guys were doing a musical. And I only learned about it pretty recently. But how long have you guys been working on this?
Well, I started writing a honky-tonk musical about a year and a half ago. And then Amanda and I started talking about it, and the Riesa Rose's music idea came into the project. And so we've been working on it together pretty consistently for a year, about a year. We were going to try to do it in the spring, last spring, but we decided to give it more time to get it more cohesive, and now is the time.
Now's the time.
Well, it's the perfect time because it goes on in the fall, so it takes place at a little later in the year. Well, but it'll be when the show is running is about the right time that the play takes place. So,
and it's set in Fairbanks now. It is
awesome.
a modern honky-tonk musical.
It's set inside a honky-tonk song that was written by someone from Alaska.
Well, and you're using a full Fairbanks cast too, aren't you?
Well, no, we have a couple people coming up from Anchorage.
Oh, okay.
Boot from Trapper Creek is coming up to be one of the leads, and Andy King, who's a honky-tonk drummer down in Anchorage, is coming up. We really, really wanted to get the best possible people for this style of music, because honky-tonk is very specific, and you need the exact proper, flair.
They have to love the music. It's not a parody of honky-tonk. It's real honky-tonk.
Yeah.
Well, and our own Fairbanks Focus, Annie Bartholomew, is going to be in the show too.
Yes.
That's right. One of our cocktailers, Roseanne.
Very nice. She's one of the leads. She's great. She can sing the music really well, exactly how it's supposed to be sung.
Cool. And so now you guys won't actually, because you're producing and directing, you're not actually going to be in the show. Is that right?
Well, we both understudy all of the parts. So we're not hoping for a terrible illness to befall anyone. But if they did,
you guys are ready.
We're ready. No, I've directed and been in shows that I've written and directed before, and it's like, there's just no checks and balances because nobody's directing you. And so even if you watch a video or something, it detracts from, I'm not my best as a performer and I'm not my best as a director. So I decided to make the sacrifice to not be in the show.
But I would have loved to have been the bass player or the dog, because there's an amazing dog in the play who everyone's going to love. And that's played by Megan Packney, and she's a great singer. I can't remember the name of her bands that she's in.
She's in Anywhere the Sun Don't Shine with Annie Bartholomew.
Oh, yeah.
And she's in that ska band, The Naked Men.
The Naked Men, yeah.
Yeah.
Eating for Two?
Eating for Two? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Anyway, she's super popular. But hopefully in the future when we go on tour, we get to be in it.
Yeah,
but
that's the plan.
We have to wait. This first one, we have to just make sure it's all.
So is it what can people expect? Is it like a traditional musical?
Well, my background is from straight regular musical theater. And so I have incorporated all of the things that I love about my favorite musicals into the show. But the music is honky-tonk. There'll be a lot of dancing. There'll be a big, awesome bar brawl with bottle smashing and a lot of flips around. Thomas Petrie from the university is choreographing the fight.
Oh.
And there's going to be a lot of two-stepping. David Leslie from the Ballroom Dance Club is teaching us all Texas two-step and waltzing. And so...
don't forget the Dream Ballet.
And there's a Dream Ballet. There's a dream ballet.
It's more like a blackout ballet, but we'll call it.
Sometimes we call it the passed out dance sequence, but it definitely will be a musical. But it also it's set in a bar, and it is a honky tonk story. So we feel like it's more true and earnest and relatable than the book of a regular musical. We tried anyway.
It's got more of a dark comedy angle to it, which I don't know is typical of musicals or not, but
yeah, it's not
typical of what I enjoy.
Sweeney Todd, but it's a little bit funnier than Sweeney Todd.
Now, is this all ages? Or
No,
21 and up, right?
21 and up, because the cast, Roseanne, who is the cocktailer, and the bartenders, who will be staff of Ivory Jacks, who's doing our catering permit, will be serving from the house, from the stage will be the bar, and they will go out with trays of beer, and people will have tickets that they can buy at the box office to get beer or whiskey.
So it's a little bit like a drinking dinner theater, but without the dinner?
No dinner. Dinner is not honky tonk.
I wanted pickled eggs, but she said
no. No food. No, I think like we don't really have the kind of venue here in Fairbanks that would be the typical sort of venue for this sort of thing. Like the Palace used to be when it was a saloon and theater.
Yeah.
Or Chilkoot Charlie's in Anchorage has that space with the stage and stuff. But we don't really have one of those. So we've had to turn the Empress into our own saloon. Because really a theater is not quite what you want if you want to have a bar, and a bar is not quite what you want if you want to have a theater. So we had to make our own theater saloon.
And so you guys are going to be there at the Empress where Fairbanks Shakespeare Theater used to be.
Yeah, they recently moved out. They're going to do something else and make a theater somewhere else maybe. They're going to start a capital campaign eventually. But we have rented the space until we move out to do plays. This is the first one, and then there might be more, I'm hoping.
Very cool. And so you guys right now I know you guys are starting to rehearse and getting all your actors together, but you're fundraising too.
Mm-hmm. We are. We have a Kickstarter campaign. If you go to Kickstarter.com and look under Fairbanks, we would be the first thing you see. Or you could search Out There Honky Tonkin', and we would love it. You can get tickets on Kickstarter, and the people who buy their tickets on Kickstarter will get premium seating, and they also get all kinds of other fun things like
posters, bumper stickers.
Well, and there's a place for campaigning funding at all levels. So I know you as little as $1 and as much as thousands. Am I right?
Yeah. If you really wanted to have an awesome Christmas party for your company, you could get the Hank Williams Award, which is $5,000. But we will do the show just for you and your people, with beer and the whole show.
So keep that in mind out there, Fairbanks. I know a lot of you are calling and wondering how you're going to entertain your whole Christmas party. $5,000 for as many as 120 people? 190 people. You can have
with
your
beer.
own private show with beer for a Christmas party and help fund an awesome art project and theater project right here in
We're
Fairbanks.
almost to $4,000, and our goal is $5,000. So we have 3 days to get the rest. So, and it's really, there's no markup really. So if you were going to go to the show anyway, you might as well just buy your ticket online.
Well, and then people also, if you're contributing, you get updates through your blog and all that fun stuff too. And then you're guaranteed a seat when the show actually does run. So tell us when can we see this show for those who maybe not be able to purchase those tickets in advance for Kickstarter. When does it open?
It opens November 7th.
Okay.
It'll run November 7th through 30th at the Empress, which is in the Co-op building downtown, between Cushman and Lacey on 3rd Avenue. And every show will be at 8 o'clock, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights for 4 weekends. But the last weekend is Thanksgiving weekend, so we don't have a show on Thanksgiving, and we have a double show on Saturday.
Oh, okay.
So there's a 7 o'clock show and an 11 p.m. on that last day, which will be rowdy.
That'll be
That's
crazy
the one.
That's the one to come
That's
to.
the one to come. I mean,
Oh, yeah, and every night after the show, we'll stay open till midnight, And we'll have the songwriter Riesa Rose Harris will be in town the last 2 weekends, and she will perform the after show. And then the other weekends we'll have different cast members and hopefully special guests from around town performing with the Honky Tonk Band after the show till midnight.
Yeah, and so
and you can dance and honky tonk.
We'll have dancing. So the bar will just continue to be a bar after the show is over.
So the $5,000 that Hank Williams wanted to come do a private performance, or have them come and get their private performance from you guys, what are some of the other things that you can get if people are wanting to donate to the campaign?
We have posters and high quality vinyl screen printed bumper stickers.
Vinyl. The best.
The best.
And also a cast album. It's not going to be, we're not spending tons of time on, but it's going to be a good quality album from Sunnyside Studios. Nice. And and that it's going to be good. It'll probably, I think we were thinking it's going to have about 16 songs out of the 32 songs that we are doing in this.
32 songs.
Musical. That's not counting reprises and instrumentals and all of that.
That's a pretty extensive song list for a musical. How long is the actual show?
I think it's 62 pages written. It's kind of a honky-tonk opera. Like, it really has little dialogue in between the songs, but the scenes are really pointed, so it moves quickly. But I think it'll run about 2:15 with our 2 intermissions.
Oh, and so there's 2 intermissions
But
too.
I mean, everybody's going to be hanging out and drinking, so it's not going to be 3 hours, but it won't be 2.
Gotcha. Gotcha. But then, of course, you have the option of sticking around and hanging out and listening to Riesa.
Yeah.
So you can make a real night of it.
It's definitely a thing that you want to
get a cab.
You want to get a cab. You want to get all your friends. You want to go out special. Get a babysitter. Make a whole night of it because it'll be really, really fun.
Oh, and the $500 level, Carrie and I will cook you dinner.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
We'll probably play you songs too, since we do that all the time.
You'll probably have to kick us out.
Well, and if the 500 level is a little too steep for you guys out there, at the $50 level, you can get a pair of tickets to come see the show.
Bumper stickers,
and a poster or something.
And that
Front
includes
row.
beer.
Yeah. So
it doesn't include beer. You have to buy.
No, you have to buy the
beer. The tickets you buy from the box
are
office.
separate. And then tickets will also be available at Music Mart and Gulliver's Books if you want to go in and get them in person, starting on Monday as soon as the Kickstarter closes, and then at the door, of course. They'll cost a little bit more at the door.
Well, we're recording here on Friday, so this will probably be airing on Sunday morning. So just so people out there who are watching, what is the day and the time that your Kickstarter campaign closes?
Monday at midnight. That's Monday the
15th of October
at midnight.
At midnight. So hop on board, support your local artists.
Yes.
And is there a good way that people can contact you if they want more, or a website that they can check out?
Yeah, our website is out there, honkytonkin.com, and you can contact us
out there, honkytonkin@gmail.com.
Oh, right.
Is our email address,
email.
and outtherehonkytonkin.com is our website.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming again.
Thank you.
And thank all of you for joining us today at Fairbanks Focus Alaska View. We'll see you next week.